Welcome on into the First Round Fantasy Podcast, your home for second round advice. I'm your host, Gabriel Miramontes, joined today by Damon Ricks, Joseph Marsaz, Jacob Bartley. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Good. It's a nice, cool evening, Thursday evening.
What are you, painting the mood via monologue, dude?
Hey, this week's going by fast. It's,
It is.
It's weekend.
It's Thursday. Joe, how are you doing?
Oh man, it's a nice Thursday afternoon now, man. It's good. We're almost at the weekend, guys.
Dude, Damon's got your weekly weather report for the weekend coming soon.
Oh, I got you guys.
Yeah, of course, as always. But we're going to stick to what we know, that is fantasy football. Today we're talking wide receivers. Before we get into that, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. If you happen to be watching via the YouTube, via Spotify, or anywhere else you get your podcast, we thank you so much. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening via 24/7 Sports Radio, Sportatorium Radio, we appreciate you so much as well. Thank you for dropping by. You can always find us at Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or on YouTube at First Round Fantasy, where we drop all of our content almost daily now, guys. We're looking pretty professional out here, like we're big boys. But again, let's get into it. We're talking rookie wide receivers. We know where they are now. Well, I was gonna do a cool transition. Basically, I was gonna be we're talking about rookie wide receivers, but let's start off with a tight end. See, you ruined my segue, bro. It's all good. It happens. That tight end, of course, is Kyle Pitts of the Atlanta Falcons. Right off the bat, guys, one of the first things I did when looking at our incoming rookie class was look at all of the available targets that are now, possible as these guys inherit these new positions. And in Atlanta, most notably, you have Hayden Hurst, who was the outgoing tight end, or at least they didn't pick up his fifth-year option, so he can be assumed dead weight at this point. 88 targets last year. Pitts, there's a reason why he's on this list. With wide receivers. It's because the man's a freak of nature, and he's probably the most touted wide receiver or most touted tight end coming out of that position since guys like Jordan Reed or Vernon Davis, who were equally touted coming out of college. There's speculation that even Julio Jones himself could be traded. If that happens, this is a guy that's been averaging between 120 targets to 170 targets over the last decade or so. So we could reasonably assume that 150 targets are up for grabs in most notably one of the past happiest offenses in the NFL, being the Atlanta Falcons. Last year, of course, they were top 10, but every year prior to that, especially the last three, they were top 5, with 2019 being the number 1 pass happiest offense. With that being said, let's start it off. Let's paint a picture where Julio Jones is still here. Can there be a case made for taking Kyle Pitts, number 1 overall in fantasy rookie drafts? Now, obviously, Najee Harris is there, but he's a running back, so we're not talking about him. But let's just say, is there a world where we can see Kyle Pitts going over someone like, the other notable wide receiver in this class, Chase, or you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, Ja'Marr Chase. So, Jacob, I'll start with you. Is there a world where we can see someone draft Kyle Pitts over Ja'Marr Chase?
Is there a world where that happens? Yes, but maybe 1 out of 100 worlds, because I just think, I don't know, it just depends on your team, obviously, team needs. If you're like, damn, I'm stacked at wide receiver, I'm stacked at running back, but I have no tight ends. Like I have some third string tight end and then Gronk or something. And then you're like, damn, to complete my team, I need a tight end. Then yes, I could see that. I think most people could use a running back in Dynasty. A lot of teams wouldn't mind adding a Ja'Marr Chase. So I think it's really hard. And then if you're talking Superflex, obviously a lot of quarterbacks could go over them too. But I think he's probably third. And this is non-Superflex. He's probably third there after Chase and Harris, for me at least.
Yeah, that's fair. Joe, with that being said, there's a lot of I don't know, would you say negative connotations with rookie tight ends and how they don't really pan out? I mean, back up 2 years ago, we saw TJ Hawkinson in game one. We were like, oh my God, the guy's going to set the world on fire. And then he was just a complete dud throughout the rest of his rookie season. And we see this trend kind of continue on and so forth throughout the years with tight ends. Can Kyle Pitts be the type of player to break that mold? What do you think, Joe?
I mean, the guy looks like, I think one of you said, I think it was you, Gabe, he's a freak of nature. And in a situation where Julio's traded in the next, 2 weeks, it ups his value some, right? But I also think this is a different Atlanta team where last year they had Gurley, who was pretty much dead weight. And now they have Mike Davis, Cordero Patterson. Cordero's nothing special, but both of those guys, one, they both catch the ball. And two, Mike Davis, he's just solid. Like, that's a huge upgrade from Todd Gurley of what we've seen the last year. So I like Pitts, and Jacob and I have talked extensively about this. I think in a redraft, I think I have him somewhere in that 4 to 6, 7 range. Like, I can make the case that, hey, listen, with Hawkinson, I know what I get. He's got a better situation because there's no targets around him. But I don't think he's anywhere. I don't think you can put him in that top 3 class until we see something, right, with Waller, Kittle, Kelsey. So in Dynasty, non-Superflex, I would have to say no because and I don't think any world it makes sense because if I get a Najee Harris, running backs are always king, guys. So I could take Najee Harris and I can flip him for maybe a George Kittle, right, who's 27, and we know that he's a superstar. I could definitely trade him probably for a Waller, and throw on a Gronk and say, hey, you just got to find the right team. So from a value standpoint, I don't see Pitts being even a top 3 pick just because I think, Devontae Smith is up there, Waddle's up there. Those guys are going to be number 1 wide receivers on their team within 2 years. So, no, I don't. But I think like Jacob said, I like him at 3 if that's the piece that completes your team, But in a normal situation where people are in a 12-team league, you could use running back depth, you could use another wide receiver, you could use a tight end. I'd rather roll with Tonyan and make sure that my wide receiver 2 or 3 is filled.
That's a good point. You always have to address the need. Joe, you mentioned, a straight up kind of trade for George Kittle. So that means you do it in a heartbeat for somebody like Travis Kelce, who's 31, right?
In Dynasty, I mean, it depends. If you're contending that year, absolutely, right? If I can win money for the next 2 years, definitely. But if you're how Jacob was in pick 6, but the Dynasty version, where you're kind of soft tanking, then no, absolutely not. I'm not, I would hold on to Najee and just see what happens. Or I would hold on to Pitts over a guy like Kelce. But like I said, I always say money now is worth more than money tomorrow, right? So pay me now. If I can win this year, that's worse. That's better to me. And we see it all the time in professional sports, guys. People mortgage futures for guys like Julio. They mortgage futures for guys in the NBA that are towards the end of their career because you have to. If I can win a championship now, I don't care what it looks like in 5 years.
That championship is worth more than your good seasons the next few years, Yeah,
absolutely.
Also, shout out to Jacob. Joe mentioned his – I don't think I've ever seen somebody do a full rebuild in fantasy football, and Jacob totally did it last year, and his team looks phenomenal this year. So good for you.
I have 4 good running backs going into next year, or this year, so it looks
good.
Dude,
some of us are jealous.
Tank was so nice, man. Cam Akers, Dobbins,
well,
right?
Jonathan Taylor, Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, and Antonio Gibson.
I want to get 2
in. George Kittle.
In there, okay,
my
man?
6 keepers up in the air, I guess. We'll see.
Relax. So, look, I guess I can kind of see both worlds of what you two have to say. Damon, I hope you can maybe agree with me, maybe borderline somewhere along the fence. I'm perfectly – again, you have to assess your needs, especially in Dynasty. But guys, I just don't think you pass up on a generational talent like this. Like, sure, you mentioned Chase would be great, but then you also mentioned guys like Waddle and Smith. Those guys are going to be there in redraft leagues. When you want to get them, if you want to target them, they're going to be there. In dynasty leagues, you don't know when you're going to get a guy like this again. And even if tight ends don't pan out year 1, I could have a great tight end second year, the third year, and the fourth year. That's all I'm really looking out for in dynasty. So as far as Najee going number 1 overall, I could see a world where Pitts goes number 2, and
My only
I'd be just
problem-
fine taking him.
My only problem with that, Gabe, is that if you go back and look at the first round picks for tight ends, it's a lot of guys like OJ Howard and Eric Ebron and Tyler Eifert that are tight end is such a different position because at wide receiver, all you need to be successful is catch the ball. Tight end, if it doesn't matter if you can catch the ball, if you
gotta
can't block,
Yeah.
then they're not going to put you on the field as much. Eric Ebron, the question has never been, can this man catch the ball? We know he can. He was a top 10 pick. But the question has been, he's a crap run blocker. And now all of a sudden, he's not utilized in the offense as much as he should be. So whereas when you've got a guy like Chase who's getting comps to Michael Thomas, that's a league winner type player. I've won many fantasy football leagues. I've never had a Travis Kelce. I don't know, but I have had some Michael Thomases. So the difference between a Kelce and the guy that's number 10 is not as big as the Thomas and the guy that's number 10, or the Tyreek Hill and the guy that's number 10.
Yeah,
Well,
the tier level is totally. Go ahead, Damon.
Oh, Joe just wins because he makes bad trades for the other person. It's not because he didn't draft
Good
Kelce,
trades
guys.
for
It's-
himself.
Yeah. I'm gonna lean on your side, Gabe, for the just the dynasty purposes, just because, like you said, he could be a generational talent. And after those 3 guys, if you take that shot on him and he just falls right in with them, like you said, you don't got to worry about him for 2, 3, 4 years. And I mean, but in a redraft league, I'm gonna take him after Waller because I'd rather have him over Andrews, Hawkinson, and
Right? You want
Voter.
the upside, right? You want the upside. You want the
Yeah.
potential.
But is that upside greater than Hawkinson's upside? Who's now
well,
the number 1
yeah,
target
I mean,
in Detroit?
he's new and exciting. So in your head, yeah.
I just feel like, the tight end position every year, like you said, Joe, you win championships. You don't have guys like Kelce or Kittle on your team. I've won championships, not as many as you. I know you're pretty good at that part. But like when you think about it, it's like I always find myself in a position where like I'm streaming tight ends because I can never find that one guy. I can find my one guy in Kyle Pitts, especially in a dynasty league where I'm set in a lot of other positions. So I think it depends, like we all kind of mutually agree on, is what you need, assess your team. But Damon, what pick do you have in the dynasty draft coming up on May 31st?
I have Michael Thomas.
Well, no.
He traded his 4th pick for Michael Thomas to me.
You don't have a first round pick?
No.
Hey, first round pick.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. Let's move on.
Wait. I want to pose you guys a question.
I had the 4th. I had the
I want
4th
to
pick.
pose you guys a question.
Let's hear Joe's question before we move on.
You're on the board. You have the number 3 pick. Najee's gone. Chase is gone. Okay. And you already have a Mark Andrews. Your wide receivers and tight end and running backs, they're on that same level, But you have Mark Andrews, a guy that's proven that he could be top 4 and then top 10 the next year. So, he's up there, but he's not a sure thing. Do you take Kyle Pitts right there and figure out what to do with Mark Andrews? Or do you take Waddle, Devontae Smith, Etany, Sermon, one of those guys?
No.
I'll tell you this, Joe. Take out Mark Andrews, insert Hunter Henry, and everything else is similar to my situation in the upcoming dynasty draft. I would strongly consider taking Kyle Pitts. If
Ooh.
I had Andrews instead, which I traded to Jacob because I don't believe in him as much as I thought I did last year, I would probably do the same thing and sell high on a guy like Andrews, knowing that you're going to get what you're going to get. And I think 2019 was his best year, and 2020 is going to be more of the same, where it's not great, but it's serviceable. So
yeah. I mean, tight ends are such a crapshoot, dude, because it's like every year I feel like we get excited. Like I can talk myself into 15 guys this year easily. Totally. I'm like, oh, this guy's going to be good. Yeah, he's in a
Was
great
it last
situation.
year or the year before when we were like, tight end is
Last year.
stacked this year?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
it ended up there are only like 3 or 4 guys that are
Yeah.
usable.
And then this year is similar, though. But I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I don't know. Tanyan seems nice. Hawkinson looks
Mhm.
good. Andrews is nice.
And it all
There's-
depends, like one of the big 3 can't get hurt either, for
Yeah.
that tight end, to work out that way. So,
Yeah, so
Nuts.
it's, I don't know. It's almost one of
but
those
for
things-
me, I think I agree with Gabe. The only 2 position players, and we're just leaving quarterback out of this. It makes it too complicated.
Mhm.
The only 2 position players I'm taking over Pitts are Chase and Harris. I mean, I consider Javonte Williams or Etienne if I if I have time to wait for them, because I don't think those guys are going to kill it right out of the gate and help your team right away. But I think it has to be Pitts unless, because to me, it's not a bad thing having 2 tight ends. Like especially in Dynasty, either you trade one of them when somebody gets desperate, or I'll start both of them in flex. I don't know why people are so against starting 2 tight ends. Like if you have them, I'm fine with starting them, because you have to slide a running back or a wide receiver into that second tight end spot. Why not just throw Andrews and Pitts into that spot? And I wouldn't take him at number 1 if I had a solid tight end, but I would consider him at number 3 highest.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I think in 3 years we look back on this and we say, just look at this. Would you take Hawkinson or Jonathan Taylor? Or maybe not Jonathan Taylor. He might have been running back 1. It actually was CH. So Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, or Hawkinson. I think today that's a no-brainer, right? Anyone that has Hawkinson is trading them for DeAndre Taylor or Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
So we're going to see a very similar thing a few years down the road. Right now, the Pitts hype is huge. But in 2-3 years, when ETN is the man over there and he's killing it with Lawrence.
Yeah, you're going to be like, I can't believe I took, him over a running back,
I'm just saying it's possible.
One other thing we have to consider is, the quarterback in Atlanta. So there's a very good chance that Matt Ryan, he'll be there this year and he could be there next year, but his future is not as bright as we once thought it was. I mean, he's got 2-3 years, and that 3rd year he may not be riding out on a shiny horse like he thought he did, or whatever. You know what? Let's move on. Things to consider, right? Jamar Chase, shiny new toy for the Cincinnati Bengals. AJ Green, goodbye. You've been serviceable for many, many years, troubled with injuries. He leaves behind 104 targets. Damon, because you have a baby now, and it's just about being a father and building chemistry and a relationship with your child. How much does chemistry, because Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, they played together in college. They were dynamic in college. How much does chemistry factor in to a rookie wide receiver and, a former teammate of his who's now the new quarterback of the, Cincinnati Bengals? Is that something that you consider when you're drafting, or when you're considering, where you might rank a guy like Jamar Chase?
Oh, for sure. Especially when it comes to a quarterback and wide receiver combo. I think it's all chemistry. Like you got Brady and Edelman. Same thing. He just throws the ball up and lets them get it. And they know each other's timing to a T. They had 14 deep ball touchdowns when they played.
Yeah, crazy
yeah, so
timing,
it's
accuracy.
It's going to be ridiculous. They're going to put on a show.
Yeah. And so there's a case to be made. Again, we talked about Kyle Pitts, and we're talking about Jamar Chase now. There's a world where Jamar Chase is going number 1. Like Jacob said, it's 99 worlds out of 100 where Kyle Pitts is, 1 in the other one. But, I mean, it's about how excited can we get about Jamar Chase. Jacob, how excited can we get about Jamar Chase? Is there a world where he's like a top 10 guy? Like, there's so much hype around him. Like, I don't know what to expect, interpret, break it down for me, man. Like, what are we looking at when we get a guy like Jamar Chase?
I mean, to me, people like it's a no-brainer that you're taking him. Like, it's him or Najee Harris, depending on what you need when it comes down to rookies, positional players, right? And with Jamar Chase, look, they had his year 2019, he had 1,700 yards and 20 touchdowns with Joe Burrow. Like, that's insane.
That's crazy.
And chemistry is not going to be everything. I mean, he had competition for targets there too. Justin Jefferson was there. I believe, I think Terrace Marshall Jr. was there as well.
Correct.
So it's not like he didn't have competition for targets. But you got to think, so Burrow, he came in, he had a good rapport with Boyd. He had a good rapport with T. Higgins. It's not just going to be the Burrow and Jamar Chase show. It's going to be, he's going to spread it around. I think Chase is going to be the number 1 target there for sure. So to me, does Chase get into the top 10 wide receivers this year? Obviously in redraft, what we're talking about? No, but he'll be there. Maybe even next year or year 3. And look, Justin Jefferson was, and he's a rookie.
Justin Jefferson was an anomaly. Like, nobody was even talking about him.
That's what I'm saying. And this guy, and Chase is a better prospect than Justin Jefferson. So that doesn't always translate directly that way, but it's like depending on your needs, it's not crazy to take him number one in a dynasty rookie draft. But also, I think rookies like these top rookies always get overdrafted in redraft. So I think people got to manage their expectations there in redraft because I don't even know where to gauge his value in redraft. Like he's probably going to get drafted before I have a chance to draft him in redraft because people are going to take him too high. But let me ask you guys, if you guys, let's say your team is pretty even, like you don't have a dire need at wide receiver or running back, and you have the number one pick in a rookie draft, are you taking Chase or Harris? Like,
I'm getting
who's the better value?
I'm getting a lot of very eerily similar questions today, and they seem to be, revolving around this draft that's happening May 31st.
Well, it's
Who
not
has
just
a first overall pick?
Just for my own sake, because I don't think I'm in that position.
Yeah,
I think
Jacob is definitely weaker at wide receiver.
I think I need a wide receiver. So in my case, I think the clear choice is Jamar Chase. But I'm asking you guys, all things being equal,
I go Jamar Chase.
Who's the better player? Like, who's the better prospect?
I go Jamar Chase.
I go Jamar Chase.
He's in a better situation.
Why? Yeah.
He's in a better situation long term, right? So you have Najee Harris on the Steelers. First of all, Gabe pointed this out the other day, and I've said this a few times myself. I don't really trust anybody that's running behind that line. Now maybe they've adjusted, and maybe it'll get better. We know their passing attack is amazing, so maybe it just needs a good running back. The other guys were kind of just throw-ins. But I'm not like I don't know, dude. It's just Ben Roethlisberger's on the way out, and then meanwhile you have 10 years of Burrow and Chase, or 5, 6, 7 years at least. Whereas like Najee Harris, who knows what the Steeler team is going to look like in 2 years?
That's a great point because wide receivers last longer than running backs. First of all, he's going in with Joe Burrow. They're both in their young 20s. Yeah. This could be a 10-year thing where they're just killing it for the next 10 years. Where Najee, even if he is a top, he becomes a top 10 running back for the next 5 years, it's not going to last that long. It's going to be 5 years. We don't know the situation. Their offensive line is hurting, and who knows what happens at quarterback.
Yeah. And I think
Najee Harris, he's got a lot of tread on the tires. Just to touch on it, he's got a lot of tread on the tires, and he's not even a 5-year guy.
By the time 4 years.
By the end of his rookie contract, he'll be 28 years old. That's already, 28, 29, 30. Those are nearly the end years for most running backs in the NFL.
Yeah. So, Jacob, I think you spoke.
Is he 24 already? I thought he was 22.
So you guys aren't scared of the target share at all? Like, not at all?
For Chase?
Yeah.
Well, you got to think. What did AJ Green have? 90 targets, 100 targets last year?
Yeah.
And he's out. So, and those guys were there too.
And
so
Burrow only played 10 games, Jacob.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I obviously, if let's just say Jamar Chase, well, it's hard to tell because like you could say if Jamar Chase went to the Lions, he would get a ton of targets, but they're from Goff instead of Burrow. But if you could just say, no Higgins, no Boyd, just some scrubs there, and Chase goes there, then obviously he's a no-brainer, like number one pick no matter what. But that's the reason why you even consider Najee Harris, because you're like, is it going to be like 100 targets, or is it like 150 to Chase and like 90 to the other guys? So
guys, I'm going to make a prediction right now.
Let's hear it.
Prediction. And I'd love for you guys to, I don't know how we can book this down, but I think it's interesting. Jacob mentioned it's going to get spread around and Jamar Chase is going to be the number one target. I tend to agree with that to a certain standpoint. I think we're going to see very similar to Dallas last year. I think T. Higgins steps into the Amari Cooper role where he may end up actually kind of being the best one. We'll see just for this year. Jamar Chase is the CeeDee Lamb, so not far behind him, if not better. I think actually before Dak went down, CeeDee may have been ahead. And then Boyd is going to kind of fall off like Gallup did. He'll have his big games, but I'm not counting on him at all for season-long production. If I have him as a flex option, I'm okay with that. But anything more than that, I don't like him.
Okay, so really quick, it's great. I like your opinion, but I was literally going to ask the same type of question because let's play a game really quick, and the game is very short. Who had a better fantasy year last year, Boyd or Higgins?
Higgins.
Mm-hmm.
Higgins. Yeah, they were one spot away from each other. Higgins finished 28th and Boyd finished 29th. So they were literally neck and neck. With that being said, I think Joe gave us his answer with, the implications of Ja'Marr Chase inserted into this offense, who becomes, more irrelevant, Boyd or Higgins. We kind of got Joe's answer in, it looks like
I may be wrong, guys, but if I remember correctly, Higgins was way better to start with Burrow. And then once Burrow went out, Boyd started to kind
It
of
wasn't way better. Boyd was still doing well also.
Yeah.
But Higgins was more like explosive and just bigger. And
I wish I would have looked at who was better, or I wish I would have looked at just numbers with Joe Burrow, but this is just season long.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
With that being said, I mean, I like Boyd. I feel like Higgins and Ja'Marr Chase, although not similar, they very much play a similar type of style. They're going to line up outside. Boyd, I feel like you can insert easily inside. He can run the slot. I mean, he can run the slot routes, and I feel like that's better for him. If they decide to move him, it makes him better rather
Joe,
than
so
having
what
to
was
compete with outside targets.
What was your bold statement?
My bold statement is that,
it's a situation like
it's
Dallas.
Not necessarily, it's going to be Dallas, where Boyd is going to end up being Gallup, where you're not going to want to start him season long. And listen.
So you mean as far as fantasy production wise, because like Boyd's the slot receiver and then Gallup's like the outside deep receiver.
That's fine. I still think it's going to end up the same
like
situation.
As far as fantasy production wise.
And listen, guys, these guys are supremely talented. You're telling me you don't think Ja'Marr Chase is going to have some time in the slot? Like, of course he is. DeAndre Hopkins has time to slot.
Oh, no, they're going
to
move around like that. And also, Burrow was throwing so much last year. He was throwing 50 times a game or something like that.
400 attemptions in 10 games, 40 plus.
I don't think their defense got much better. So
no, and they're going to go the most 3 wide receiver sets probably of any team. That's going to be 3 wide receiver sets every play.
Oh, they're going to be down a ton. Of course they're going to go.
And you know what? I used to think that Boyd's contract's up, but no, they signed him they signed an extension for 4 years. So Boyd's going to be there for a while.
Yeah. Listen, I still think he's going to be good. Like, if you look at Michael Gallup, he has his purpose even in Dallas. There are games they relied on him, but I still think that Higgins and Chase are going to separate themselves from him this year.
I'm not confident.
I agree.
I'm not confident in booking it down or anything because, I think we each have valid arguments, but I do like Boyd more than Higgins this year. I don't want to book it down though because I could see a world where Higgins is just fine and Boyd is kind of
man. Be confident in your convictions.
No, because I have book it downs and we'll get to them shortly. But that one I could see it going either way. That's why I'm not too confident.
Hey, by the way,
we spent a lot of time on Ja'Marr Chase.
We already have book it downs. We already started. There's 2.
No.
Yes, we
have not
did.
started book it down.
Yes, we have.
I tried to do a book it down like every week, and I always get shit down.
We'll talk about this
on record.
But
where am I don't even know what I'm agreeing to. Whoever's host books it down officially, and I have not approved any book it downs.
I think you weren't host on those shows.
So you're just booking it down behind my back?
I have them on record. March 17th and March 24th. I have them on record.
Okay. We'll have to go
talk about it
look.
offline today.
We'll go back and look. We spent a lot of time on Ja'Marr Chase. Let's move on. Devontae Smith, Philadelphia Eagles. Listen, Jalen Reagor, first round pick last year, didn't really prove a lot. This year, he could find some success. It might take year 2 to develop. Alshon Jeffrey, injured all year, now gone. Zach Ertz, Goddard, those guys are still there, although Ertz is tentatively being shopped around, could even be released. We'll see what happens. Fulgham likely saw his one shining moment and a few game stretch last season. So with that being said, this whole Philadelphia offense is quite the question mark, given outside of, Jalen Hurts himself and his rushing ability. Backfield, we can save that story for another day. We talked about it a little bit last week, but let's focus specifically on Devontae Smith. And I'll start modest. Is this a guy that we can get a top 30 season from fantasy wise? And I'll start with you, Joe, because I already see you kind of murking your head. What are you thinking?
I think it's definitely possible. Listen, he's going to be the number 1 wide receiver day 1, right? Jalen Reagor did not do anything to prove that he's got that spot. So I think he's better. He's faster. He's bigger. I know he's skinny, but he's taller. He's longer. And he's going to be a guy that Hurts relies on because he's a guy that gets open and creates separation. And that's what they said a lot about Mac Jones, right? He had such good wide receivers that they created separation all day long. Well, Hurts is not really known as the guy that's super accurate, right? He's the guy that moves around a lot. He extends plays. So a guy like Devontae Smith has a chance definitely to be a top 30. Guys, the days of waiting 3 years for a rookie to start playing in the NFL are gone. That doesn't exist anymore. It's now like basketball. Year one, you prove it, or you're a bust. And there's exceptions to that rule. But for the most part, yeah, I mean Bagley is a bust though. But Julius Randle, I guess. I mean, now he's balling. It's been 5 years. But,
back on fantasy football.
Yeah. But, I mean, I think we could see top 30, especially if, listen, Hurts is projected to be what? I've seen as high as top 10. Yeah, and he's not 100%. Only going to do it running. He's got to throw the ball if they're going to. And there were games last year where he had, 400, 500 yards? Something crazy. He had some big monster games.
One game, yeah.
Yeah.
One game was just phenomenal.
Yeah, so if he's going to be doing that and the Philly sucks, they're going to be chucking it out all game long. So guys like Miles Sanders, guys like Devontae Smith, they have high upside, I think, in this offense with Jalen Hurts. And I like him. I put him squarely at number 2 for this next year at wide receiver. I don't think Waddle is in the conversation with those two guys. So, yeah, top 30 for sure. And in Dynasty, I mean, like I said, you got to think about this man over Pitts. Even though I don't love Philly's previous wide receiver selections, I think it's a new regime now. No more Doug Peterson. So you got to give these guys a chance.
100%. And obviously situations have changed over the course of last year, but to kind of give you an idea of wide receivers that finished in that wide receiver 30 range, or I should say inside the top 30 or just outside the top 30, Corey Davis finished as the wide receiver 31 last year. T. Higgins was the wide receiver 30. Cooper Kupp, 27, and Curtis Samuel, 25. So, I mean, obviously not comped to a guy like Curtis Samuel, but I can see a lot of situations, like Joe said, where there are broken down plays and Smith finds space, he gets open, and he's going to eat up 20 yards after catch. So I like it, but you said definitely top 30. Can you see definitely top 20? And this is where I think it's kind of odd because you have guys like McLaurin and DJ Moore, who I think are contention to even move up this year from where they finished last year, which was at 21 and 22 respectively.
Well, one thing we got to remember, guys, is last year's wide receiver class had some names like Lamb and like Ruggs and like that. Devontae Smith is a better prospect than any single one of the guys that got drafted last year, CeeDee Lamb included, Ruggs included.
He's a Heisman winner.
So it's not entirely unthinkable. Can you see him replicating what Lamb did? I don't know, because Lamb plays with Dak. But it all is going to fall squarely on how that offense operates. And as far as top 20, probably not, because from my understanding, the coach comes from Indianapolis. They like to run the football a lot. I think they're going to try to lean on that a little bit more to give Hurts some not as much having to run around and chase for his life. Mm-hmm. So I like him as top 30. I see, like, he's not going to do what Higgins did last year. That seems about reasonable.
Seems about reasonable. Yeah. Jacob, what about you, man? What are you feeling?
Smith is tough because I definitely think he's the second most talented of the rookie class after Chase, but I just don't love the situation. I think he will get a lot of targets, but it's Hurts is the one that's going to limit him either by just his rushing too much or just his inability to get the ball to him. So look, we saw what Jalen Hurts play 4 games last year. I don't think it's a big enough sample size to really know, but he's going to be the man going into the year. So Smith is, like, to me, the difference between Smith and Jalen Reagor is huge. So, like, he's going to be the number one guy on this offense. And so do you trust in the offense? I don't really. So I'm a little lower on him than I think most people are going to be, but I love the talent. Like, if he went somewhere else, with a prolific passing offense, I'd be stoked about him. I'm just a little worried about Eagles offense.
Fair enough. And as am I. I'm definitely worried about that offense. I feel like I only really believe in Sanders, and that's hanging by a thread. No offense, Joe. I know you're a Sanders truther, but I also love Jalen Hurts, but not for his arm, for his legs. And I do think he has potential to be top 10, top 15. definitely in that vicinity. So I'm all about it. With that being said, Devontae Smith is not someone I'm overly excited about, even in dynasty redrafts. You brought up the conversation, Devontae Smith or Kyle Pitts. It's like, oh man, at that point, I think I'm definitely taking someone like Pitts. Especially with the targets available. I mean, there are targets available for Devontae Smith as well, but I don't know. I don't like the situation. I don't like the landing spot as much as I do for Pitts.
4 games last year, and mind you, that's 4 games when he's not scheduled to be the starter, so he's not taking first team reps all season. He still threw an average of 37 passes a game for 270 yards a game. Throughout the season, that's 4,400 yards for the season, and over 600 attempts. Like, that's not small potatoes, guys. There's a lot to go around in Philly if it works out.
Am I crazy to think that he's going to do better than Chase next year?
I don't think you are. I think it's possible.
It's within the realm of possibility.
He doesn't have as much competition for targets.
There's zero competition. They're going to be down a lot.
Very true. Very true.
Jalen Hurts throws a good deep ball, and a scrambling quarterback gives time for him to run literally all the way to the end zone.
Yeah, Devontae Smith is like as fast as Tyreek Hill. I don't know if that's true, but I'm just saying for a guy like Hurts who has an arm, he can bomb him. And
he can bomb, and that plays.
So if you wanted to make that bold statement that you think Devontae Smith is going to have a better rookie season than Ja'Marr Chase, I don't think that's crazy, because I think the hype on Chase is gone too far, in my opinion.
I mean, I wouldn't bet on that, but I think it's. I
don't think it's crazy. Like, I wouldn't be like, "You're insane, man!" Like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, it's a bold take. But if anybody in this class can do it, it's Smith.
Redraft, Chase is going to go higher, but I think you're going to get the value from Smith.
And that is essentially the name of the game. It's who that's what wins you fantasy championships is who can you get that's the bigger value. It's those mid-round picks that really, solidify your season. I want to touch back on Jalen Hurts' last 4-game stretch. I get it. He had week 14 and week 15, he threw for 338 yards and then 342 yards, 3 touchdowns in one of those games. But that was against Arizona and Dallas. Granted, he plays Dallas twice because they're in the same division. He was awful against Washington and he was awful against New Orleans. So those 2 games inflated his fantasy outlook, and I think you have to temper your expectations. But we're over here telling us, we're over here saying the guy's a top 10 guy.
But that's half of his games, though.
Yeah, who cares? That's my point. And that's
half of his games. That's 2 of his games. Yeah, he's not going to play Arizona again.
That's half.
Yeah, that's half of the games he played.
Of the 4-game sample.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. I get it. But I'm just saying, like,
those
teams were awful. They were literally awful. They were awful defenses. Mm-hmm. Anybody could have gone out there and had a great game against Dallas.
I'm going to say his bottom barrel, what I expect from Devontae Smith is what we saw from Juju year 1, where it was not a whole lot of catches. Like, he had 60 catches that year, but he had 917 yards and 7 touchdowns. And I think that's bottom barrel, where if you guys remember, Juju was 4 catches, 120 yards, big games. I think that we'll see something like that as a bottom. And I think Damont's right, is that no competition for targets, and Jalen Hurts can throw the ball downfield. It's not crazy that this fool – I mean, listen, top 20 is in the realm of possibility. Top 30 I feel confident about.
Top 30
Cooper Kupp or Smith? You're in the middle rounds.
Devontae Smith.
Yeah, and this is redraft?
This is redraft, yeah.
I'm going Cooper Kupp all day.
I would go Cooper Kupp as well.
Over Smith, I think I go.
He's got Matthew Stafford throwing him, the best quarterback he's ever played with.
Yeah, I got Cooper Kupp as well. True.
I don't trust Matthew Stafford with these wide receivers. Matthew Stafford spreads it too much, man. He's had Galladay for 3 years, and guys never had more than 80 targets.
Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp are going to blow up this
year.
Hickman
and Cam Akers and Henderson and the new rookie that they just drafted. And
there's a lot of mouths to feed.
Dude, Woods and Kupp. I've never had Robert Woods on a fantasy team. I'm going to be drafting him this year.
So I think we can all agree that it won't be pretty, but it'll be good for your fantasy team for Jalen Smith, especially given his value in Dynasty, later half of the first round or, as early as the mid-first round. And then, of course, in redrafts as well.
Did you say Jalen Smith?
Jalen Waddle. He's thinking ahead.
I'm peeking ahead. That's a transition. Yeah. Jalen Waddle, Miami Dolphins wide receiver. I'm going to cut to the chase on this guy. Gesicki, Fuller, Parker, Wilson, Williams, and now Waddle. That's just a lot of mouths to feed. And more importantly, I'll open it up with this. Miami has done a great job of surrounding Tua with talent in Miami. That being said, you can't tell me how much you like or dislike Jalen Waddle without first telling me how you feel about Tua in 2021. And I'll hand it over to the resident Miami Dolphins fan by marriage, Joseph Marcel.
I'm starting all of these, man. Dude, I'm looking to buy a Tua rookie. If you guys got one, let me know. No, but listen, I like Jalen Waddle a lot in the future. I love Tua, actually. And I know that people are down on Tua. And my opinion of the matter is that they took it easy on him. They didn't expect to be anywhere near where they ended up. And it was just a pleasant surprise. Why not let Tua play some meaningful games? They still kind of benched him towards the end. And Ryan Fitzpatrick is better than a rookie to win you a playoff game. I get it. But, in the long run, I do still really like Tua. Shout out Gio. And I think Jalen Waddle is going to be really good. But this first year, I don't love Jalen Waddle because I love Will Fuller. And because I think Devontae Parker is still good, and I think Gesicki's still good, and I think Gaskin's going to eat some touches. So, and I still think Preston Williams is going to see the field, and they have Lynn Bowden Jr. It's just a lot of guys. And I think Devontae Parker and Will Fuller are squared ahead as the two top guys. And maybe Will Fuller gets injured, and that opens a door. I don't know. But right off the bat, I'll take Elijah Moore over Jalen Waddle for a redraft. But in Dynasty, Jalen Waddle is a no-brainer to me.
We will get to that very shortly. And I like all of your points because they line perfectly with mine. I just think there's way too many mouths to feed. This guy's getting comped to Tyreek Hill. Sure. 2 years from now, let me see it when a couple of these contracts fire away and, things are looking a little bleak in Miami in terms of depth. I can see that happening. Not now. I think he's a gadget guy at best, maybe like a lower 2.0 Curtis Samuel of what we saw last year, or maybe even like a lower version of his comparison, Tyreek Hill. Jacob, Damon, any thoughts?
I don't want any. I'm probably going to not have any Waddle. There's the target share is just ridiculous. If Fuller can play a full season, you got him, Preston Williams, Parker. Like you said, Joe, there's just too many people. I can see him being used as a gadget guy, though. So, like, he late round flyer, really.
Yeah. Jacob, you're proving us wrong.
No, I pretty much agree with you guys. I'm not excited this year. Man, because I thought I was going to be the anti-Waddle guy, and you guys all are pretty much feel the same way I do, but there's a reason why they took him number 6 overall, and he played with Tua at Alabama.
Yep.
So there's
I know, the same comparison. You're right, the same comparison we were talking about Joe Burrow.
I'm eyeing some guys that, like, I wouldn't even, like, draft in Dynasty too high, but in redraft, I draft them this year over Waddle just because I think they're going to have a better year this year. Mm-hmm. And there's a few guys like that. But Waddle, like his comparisons to Tyreek Hill, even if that's true, he's not playing with Patrick Mahomes and he never will. It's like Tua, even if Tua becomes great, even if he becomes like Lamar Jackson, it's not Mahomes. So it's tough. But I do like he will be the number 1 wide receiver there in the long term if him and Tua stay there,
But I will say, while I think Devontae Smith is the second best wide receiver this year, I think I like Jalen Waddle better long term. And maybe that's me being a Tua believer. And maybe that's me also thinking, listen, Will Fuller's on a 1-year stop. He's gone after this year. And, but I think, Jacob, you brought up a good point. We focused a lot on Chase and Burrow being college teammates. And the same can be said for Tua and this man. And Tua actually produced one of his best seasons with Waddle produced one of his best seasons with Tua. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I like the way he plays football, and he just has the look of a guy that's gonna. I know maybe Demont. I'm actually. Let me change topics real quick. I forgot to mention this. I'm actually surprised that you like Devontae Smith because I looked at pictures of his legs and he's skinnier than Robbie Anderson.
Really? Hey, Demont, but he's a rookie though. There's your argument.
Yeah.
He doesn't look as flabbergasted. No response.
Yeah, no. I gotta see it.
At least Jalen Waddle.
I have to see him side by side.
He's got that Tyreek frame where it's like you can see this guy becoming like a little Kyler Murray.
Right. Now we gotta look.
While Damon looks up his side-by-side comparison, Yeah, I think we all agree Waddle is someone who you can see very much relevant even next year, as early as next year, but especially down the road. Moving on, the next two guys, I have no idea why they're in this order, but we're going to talk about them quickly because we're getting to my favorite guy pretty soon here. Joe mentioned him briefly. We'll talk about him in a second. But let's get to Rashad Bateman first, Baltimore Ravens wide receiver. Willie Snead, he's gone. Sure, only 48 targets. I'll be quick and I'll throw it over to you guys. I still see Andrews being the number one target on this team. Last year, he missed 2 games and still had 88 targets. Hollywood Brown had 100 targets. They don't throw the ball a lot. Can Jackson improve on his passing ability? That's a question mark. And because of that, Bateman is Bateman. He looks good. And then he landed on the Baltimore Ravens. And you just kind of wonder how far are you willing to take a step or take a stab at a guy like Bateman in redrafts. He's probably a flyer at best. And then in Dynasty, obviously, there's a lot of other things to consider. Jacob, I'll hand this one over to you first.
I look, I get where the troubles come for with Lamar Jackson's passing. I mean, but I think I disagree with you, man. I think this guy, look, Andrew's going to be the number one target on the team, but Rashad Bateman's going to be the number one wide receiver targeted in this offense, and he'll be the number one wide receiver statistically and fantasy wise because Marquise Hollywood Brown, he's a great number 2 or a great number 3. He's not meant to be a number 1 guy. This is the guy they drafted to be their number 1 wide receiver, and I don't think they're going to force the issue, but I think they're going to make a point to get him involved. And they tried to get, they tried to get Juju Smith-Schuster. They added Sammy Watkins, but I just think Rashad Bateman, the draft capital, this is probably one of their biggest needs on their team, and they're addressing it. And he's like the prototypical wide receiver 1 type of player. So I'm actually very hyped about Rashad Bateman, and I'll gladly draft him if he falls to me if you guys don't draft him.
So you said, Mark Andrews number 1 in targets, but Rashad Bateman number 1 wide receiver in Baltimore. Hollywood Brown, obviously you think he's better. He's a better prospect. Hollywood Brown finished highest was last year, actually, and he finished as the wide receiver 34, which puts him in, wide receiver 3 range. Pretty serviceable. So do you think Bateman can crack that top 35 then?
So that was Baltimore Marquise's second or third year?
I think that was his third year.
Look, I don't think Bateman's going to be top 30 his rookie year, but so Marquise Hollywood Brown finished top 34 in his third year. So it's tough, but I do think he's going to outperform Marquise Brown for sure.
Sure. So if he can replicate what Marquise Brown did last year, he could be top 35. He just kind of overtakes and gets the workload that Brown got last year.
I could see that. I just think, what are you working on if you're Lamar Jackson? What are the coaches?
You got to throw the freaking ball, man.
Exactly. So I'm believing that they are working on that, and hopefully it can improve a little bit. I mean, he has a career passer rating of 99, which isn't terrible. I mean, it's actually really good, but
because he doesn't throw that off,
volume isn't high is the problem.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. He's accurate, but he doesn't get the opportunity to throw the ball a lot. But who needs it? Because he runs, and that's why you love him for fantasy. Damon, Joe, any thoughts?
I like Bateman because I feel like the team is trying to be a more balanced offense, so teams just don't stack the box on first and second down on them because they know they're going to try and run the ball. Mm-hmm. And did they draft a guard or something? They drafted a guard, no?
They sure did.
Yeah, so that's going to give him more time to stay in the pocket and make some throws. So I personally like him for redraft more than Waddle.
And they also
not Dynasty.
They also signed now we're making us
Sammy
look bad.
Watkins?
No, well, they signed Sammy Watkins, but they signed the guard from Kansas City. They stole him from Kansas City.
I thought they traded
it was the other way around.
No. I'm sorry, from Pittsburgh. They signed within the division. They signed the guard. What's his name? Something Villanueva, I think. They signed the guard, and then he came out on Twitter and basically threw shade at the wide receiving core of Pittsburgh because he was like, "I'd rather be behind,
it was the Pittsburgh
guards and stuff in the NFL. They want to protect their passer and they want to create running lanes. They don't really care about wide receivers, obviously, because they're protecting the quarterback. But that makes sense. But he came out and said something along the lines of, "I'd rather play for a team who runs the ball hard than play for a team whose players make TikToks all day. And he was taking a hit at Juju. And Claypool, all of them. Claypool, Juju, Deontay Johnson, they're all just TikTok stars now. It is what it is.
Yeah. I mean,
go ahead, Joe.
I mean, guys, how many wide receivers do we have to watch this team draft before we just kind of get it? So we kind of realize, like, listen, it doesn't matter who's the wide receiver. Like, if you're not, if you don't throw the ball, you're not going to have success. And we saw it with Marquise Brown. We saw it with Miles Boykin. We saw it with Devin Duvernay. You mentioned that I can't even remember his name because he's irrelevant, is gone, and that's only 40 targets. Well, Sammy Watkins is there. And Sammy Watkins, say what you want about him. There's a reason the guy keeps getting paid. They like him. Rashad Bateman, Marquise, and now they drafted Tylan Wallace too. There's a lot of guys. And listen, maybe one of these guys is going to be so damn good that it doesn't matter. You give him 6 targets a game and he's going to make something out of it. But I don't want to take that risk. Not until I see it. So listen.
But don't you think that them getting 2 receivers and then bolstering the O-line means that they're trying to change?
Yeah, of course. The 49ers wanted to change last year too, and then injuries happened, and we end up running the ball because that's what we do.
Yeah.
Teams that run the ball well, they continue to run the ball.
I mean, yeah, Ravens one of the best running the football teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean,
Dobbins and Gus Edwards were averaging like over 4.5 a game.
I don't hate taking a chance on him in Dynasty, but I may get burned, but I'm not touching him in any redraft leagues, no matter what. And like I said, I may get burned. He may fall to me in the 11th round, and I'll be kicking myself that I didn't take a chance on the guy. Yeah. But like I see at least 4 or 5 other rookies that we haven't even talked about that I would rather just gamble on than take him, to be honest.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we're going to be talking about with the next couple of guys here, except for one. But and that's what you're going to see. A lot of these guys are going to be in the later rounds of your draft, and you're going to be faced with a situation. Do I want the promise of a young rookie, or do I want more of a solid option? And those solid options are going to be guys, they don't look appetizing, but they're serviceable because they have a track record. Jacob, one last stop before we move on, because I can tell you're itching to say something.
Oh, no, I'm waiting to talk about some other guys.
All right, we're moving on then. Let's talk about Rondale Moore, Arizona Cardinals. They didn't lose any meaningful targets via the boot in the offseason so far. I think Andy Isabella is gone. He was irrelevant. They did, however, add A.J. Green. That might not be the most relevant thing, but it could definitely hinder a guy like Rondale Moore in his rookie season. We're still waiting to see if Larry Fitzgerald retires. Who knows? He could return. But look, the same thing can be said about Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts. When you have a rushing QB, it really limits the upside of all of the other offensive weapons that surround them. With that being said, I think Kyler has the best arm of the 3, in my opinion, and that's a discussion for another day. I'm just kind of addressing it to start the question. So do you take a flyer on a guy like Rondale Moore late in your draft and see how the first 3 weeks pan out, or are you going to be one of those guys who pick him up on the waiver wire, week 7, week 8, when you realize this guy is something and now I'm taking a shot on him? Jacob, I'll start with you.
So we're talking Rondale Moore in Arizona. I'm not too high on this guy, and it's not his talent. It's just the situation. I don't really trust a wide receiver outside of Hopkins in Arizona. I guess Kyler's only played 2 years, but how come nobody, ever flourished or just claimed that secondary role? Christian Kirk was so up and down, so inconsistent. So I don't think, and maybe that's, not fair, but I think he's getting drafted really high, to be honest. Like, I've done a rookie draft and I saw Rondale Moore and Elijah Moore go way higher than I thought they should. And I'm just staying away from both of those guys. But so to me, I'm not a huge, Kyler Murray as a passer fan, and I don't like the second wide receiver role there.
2 things. One, I think out of all of the wide receivers, of the rookie wide receivers that landed in bad spots, Rondale Moore is the best wide receiver who landed in a bad spot. Second, yes, I kind of touched on it with Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts. It's like these guys who run, they likely only have that wide receiver 1 option. That's why you don't see a guy like last year that role wasn't really carved out because it was eaten up by the running game and Kyler Murray's rushing ability. Obviously, he had the shoulder injury halfway through the season. When he came back, he didn't rush at all practically. So maybe that changes things. Maybe they want to keep him healthy, keep him in the pocket a little bit more. That opens the door for a guy like Rondale Moore. But still competing for targets on a team that's led by DeAndre Hopkins. I don't see any relevance here in year one. Maybe down the road, AJ Green retires, Larry Fitz retires. Next year could be 100% different for Rondale Moore and his outlook. This year, not so much at all. Joe, Damon?
The only reason that I'd be interested in Moore is if he starts the season and just operates in the slot. Because
that can be possible.
That's it. Just you have Hopkins and Green on the outside and him just running around in the slot. Besides that, it doesn't excite me. I'm not going to take him. Yeah,
I agree with you. Joe? We ready to move on?
Larry Fitzgerald's not officially retired yet, boys. He's coming back.
That's what I just said. I said, I don't know if he's retired.
Not you, but everybody I see outside talks about him like he's gone. And then very well, maybe. But if he's back, then Moore is the fifth wide receiver. And I get it. Arizona Cardinals ran more 4 wide receiver sets than any team out there. But they still have Andy Isabella. They still have a couple of other guys. I don't see this guy being a factor whatsoever year one, even with or without Larry Fitzgerald. I hope I'm wrong. He seems like a good kid, seems like a good player. But, I hope I'm right because I hate the Cardinals. But I just don't see it, man. I'm not in on this. Again, 4 or 5 guys down the list that I'd much rather have than him. I don't.
Like he's going at the top of the second round in rookie drafts, and that's way too high for me.
I mean, listen, the idea behind that, and I see it is like, dude,
Kyler.
Is Terrence Marshall going to win me a championship this year? Probably not, right? Is Rashad Bateman going to win me a championship this year? Probably not. So I'll take Elijah Moore. I'll wait. AJ Green retires at the end of this year. Christian Kirk goes and signs another contract. Hopkins is gone in a few years, and now I have maybe Kyler Murray's first option. I don't know. I'm just saying I can see like the logic behind it.
I think that's probably what people are banking on.
Yeah. And if you're not talking super flex, then those quarterbacks, at least behind Trevor Lawrence, they fall.
Yeah.
For sure. I don't think we're gonna see that in our super flex league where probably 4 or 5 quarterbacks get taken easily before this guy.
The hype for Rondale Moore is certainly something that we can talk about next year. Let's move on to Joe. Now I'm kind of nervous to say this because I think you really like him too. And that's my favorite wide receiver prospect out of this rookie class, Elijah Moore, wide receiver for the New York Jets. He is without a doubt the best slot receiver in this draft class by far. And although just rumors as of right now, there are signs that Crowder could be out the door via trade or via free agency very, very soon here if he is released. Even if he's not released, I still love the youth and the explosiveness of Moore. There's one ding against him. He's got a rookie quarterback and he plays on a bad team. But there's also one plus against him is he plays for a rookie quarterback and he's on a bad team. It literally goes hand in hand. And I'd rather have Elijah Moore in the slot, getting passes from a team that's down a lot from a rookie QB. I love it. I love his outlook. I love everything about him. I think he has the highest potential in this draft class to finish, well inside the top 20. Probably, okay, that was hype getting to me. But I think he can definitely be a top 25 wide receiver for sure. Give him the ball, put him to work, get him in the slot, get him in a screen pass. I love everything about him. Joe, piggyback off of what I'm saying because I know you're feeling it.
Man, I love everything about this Jets team.
Dang it, dude.
I love everything about this Jets team. First of all, it starts
You're hype him up, bro. I'm taking him. You're not taking him.
It starts at the top, boys. It starts at the man, Robert Saleh himself. And then it goes down to LaFleur, who they brought over for the 49ers. And I can't tell you how many times I've mentioned that on this podcast. This team is going to be better than you expect. Their defense is going to be a top 10 defense. I guarantee it. Their offense is going to be better than you expect. This team is going to finish with 7 to 8 wins in a team that you might expect to finish with 2 to 3. And listen, you might say 7 to 8 wins is nothing special. Kyler Murray in his first year didn't have 7 to 8 wins, right? He had 5 or 6. So I think that this team is going to outperform a lot of expectations. And I love the fit. Corey Davis comes in, a man that proved it last year. And he was a top pick. He can show these guys the way. Denzel Mims didn't really get a ton of opportunity, but he's a big guy. And now what do you do? Like you said, you bring in the number 1 slot receiver. And I just love it. Like, can you ask for a better situation this is my AFC team. This is my AFC. I mean, it was as soon as Robert Saleh went there.
Damn, over the Dolphins.
I mean, listen, the Dolphins are because my girl, right?
Yeah.
And I like Tua, but I like Robert Saleh. That was my guy, and I like Wilson, and I like Mims, and I like Corey Davis, and I just like what they're doing. Michael Carter. I think this team is going to have some explosive fantasy games. It's going to be a whole different story from what we've seen the last 3-4 years, where it's like, dude, don't take anybody on the Jets. Doesn't matter who. Not their starting running back, not their number one wide receiver, not their quarterback. You're not touching them. I think it's different this year. I think I like all of these guys, and I'm not sure which wide receiver is going to end up having fantasy value, but in a dynasty draft, I love Elijah Moore.
Yeah.
For all things you just mentioned, let's throw in a shout out to goingfor2.com. My new article is out, and I say all those same things about the New York Jets. I think they're amazing. I think the culture that they're establishing there behind Robert Saleh is something to turn the tides for sure in New York. Jacob, Damon, how are we feeling about our new friend, Elijah Moore? He's
I
gonna
like
eat.
him. I like him in Dynasty, but for redraft purposes, he operates in the same slot that Crowder. Crowder's gonna eat up a lot of those slot routes.
And you're right. He is still there as of this point, and he very well could be there
Isn't
at
he
the start
a
of the
June
season.
1st casualty? Isn't that what they're saying? I thought I
Yeah.
heard that.
He
Yeah,
very
if-
well could be cut. But what
if
I'm
he's
saying
cut, then yeah.
is,
all
even
day.
if he's there, I think that this team is going to be working towards next year, even if they're competitive this year, and they're going to get Elijah Moore to work very quickly to establish that connection and that
But,
rapport
yeah,
with
I mean,
Wilson.
true.
Jacob?
So, is there anybody from the Jets saying that Crowder is a possibility to get cut?
Yes,
Because
that's what all the
It's-
rumors are saying.
But people from the Jets are actually saying that.
I mean,
Who
dude,
knows?
I think
The
it's all
Jets- It's
speculation.
people from New York in general, dude.
Yeah.
Everyone in New York.
Because
just
I heard
hates
the
team.
day
They're all saying-
after the draft, the day after Elijah Moore was drafted, all I hear is, "Oh, they're going to cut Crowder. They're going to cut Crowder." It was just people speculating. So I think that snowballed into like people think it's reality now. Why would they cut Jamison Crowder? You want to supply? I mean, unless it's
because
a
you owe them a
financial
lot
thing.
of money too.
If it's
Keep that in mind.
financial thing, I understand it. But you want to provide your rookie quarterback with the most comfort possible. What better than a veteran slot receiver that can just honestly, Crowder's underrated, man, and I've
He is.
underrated him every year. I never draft him, and he's always people picking him off the waiver, starting him in their flex, and he shows up. So I don't think Crowder's out this year, and to me, the hype on Elijah Moore is a little too high as well. I can reassess and change my opinion once Crowder moves on, but as of right now, if we were drafting today, I'm not touching Elijah Moore. Probably not because I don't value him, it's because people are going to take him ahead of me.
well, listen,
That's,
Jacob.
that's actually a really good point. Not that you don't value him, but that you think people are going to
Exactly.
take him ahead of you. Joe?
Yeah.
And listen, it's not necessarily that Crowder's going to get cut. I wouldn't anticipate him getting cut either because I think he's a valuable player. But
He's
I
owed
think
$10.5 million.
and
next
somebody
year.
might trade for him, right?
Yeah,
like
totally.
there's teams that could use a guy like that, like maybe the Jacksonville Jaguars
Even the
maybe
New England
freaking-
Patriots.
Or the Lions.
or the
The
Lions.
Lions.
Someone could use him. So it's almost like, dude, the writing's on the wall. It comes down to more than that. It may not necessarily be that they cut him. Jameson Crowder may say, dude, you just drafted my replacement. You just
So
signed
A
one of the
lot
top
of
wide
these
receivers.
team players like getting traded and cut is because teams are over the salary cap and they need to get under it, right? So are the Jets over the salary cap?
Well, it's
I don't
not
think-
necessarily even that anymore because nowadays you can roll the cap over, right? So if they cut him and they save more money, next year they can spend more money. So it's very similar to what I think we saw the Dolphins, or I can't remember.
Oh, I
who it
mean,
was.
he's making a lot.
The
Actually, I
Colts.
didn't realize how much he's making. He's making 11.4 million.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's making a lot of money. Again, if Crowder's there, I still think that he is worthwhile in Dynasty, and he is worthwhile in the later rounds of redraft leagues because I think this is a guy whose talent truly shines out. Injury concerns actually didn't plague him. They kind of just hindered and made him fall in the draft. He was more than capable of being a first-round pick this year, and he fell into whatever round he fell in. The first day of the second round, literally the first pick, I think. So
well,
the guy's
I'll tell you
talent.
what, I like him in Dynasty way more than redraft for sure. I think we all agree on that.
Because as mentioned, just like we've done in the last couple of weeks, we're going to re-rank probably the top 5 or 6 guys for both redraft and Dynasty. Before we do that, we're going to touch on 2 more guys here, probably 3, but we're going to just run through them really quick. Terrence Marshall of the Carolina Panthers. Listen, there's already established wide receivers out there in DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. That offense runs primarily through CMC when healthy. With that being said, I think this is a guy that you can definitely consider next year. Anderson is on the last year of his contract. This was definitely a next year type of move. They took the best player available in Terrence Marshall, knowing he could be a potential superstar next year. I don't think they re-signed Anderson. With that being said, I don't know. We'll have to see. Also, there's a lot of questions. I want to see how Darnold does in year 1 without Adam Gase. I don't want to draft him and see how that happens. I'd rather just wait because I know that he's going to be way more valuable next year than this year. I'm going to hand it off to one of you guys. Jacob, what about you?
Terrace Marshall is the guy I'm highest on compared to his.
I'm glad I handed it off to you.
Compared to his ADP in redraft or Dynasty. As soon as I started doing all my research and stuff, I just was like, why isn't this guy ranked higher? And I know he had an injury, so that probably has to do with it. But also, he was the 3rd target at LSU
for Burrow,
for Burrow, and he still performed well. So imagine if he was the number 1. And look, he was kind of the number 1 in 2020 because Chase didn't come back. There was no more Justin Jefferson, and he performed well. So I like this guy. I mean, look, you guys, it's no secret. I like big wide receivers. You know, I just think that, you know, and it's not just like there's more good small wide receivers than there are good big wide receivers. So it kind of doesn't make sense, right? But when you can get in a very talented guy who has the size, then they can have more success with their size. So I just like Terrace Marshall. I like him in Dynasty a lot because next year there's a possibility that Robbie Anderson is not there, but maybe not because didn't Robbie Anderson play for the coach in college and they have a relationship? So I can see him staying there. But even if so, I could see Terrace Marshall surpassing Anderson, becoming the number 2 there next year. And I'm high. I've been pumping in the Sam Darnold train ever since he was traded to Carolina. I'm super high on him compared to where other people are. So Terrace Marshall Jr., I wish I was in a position to draft him in like our Dynasty league. I'm not. I don't have a 2nd round pick until pick 20. So he's not going to fall that far, but I love this guy. I don't like him more than Chase and Smith, but I like him a lot.
I'm glad you love him, and I'll probably try to make a trade for him next year because you'll be sad that he wasn't good this year, even though you know that his outlook. So I'm glad that you're smart about that. Kadarius Toney of the New York Giants. Listen, Ingram, Rudolph, Benjamin, he's not going to make the team, but those are just the tight ends. Then you got Golladay, Shepard, and Slayton. Another situation where there are just an overwhelming amount of weapons. Toney can certainly find himself a role. However, the only way, and honestly, to be quite honest with you guys, this might be a guy that I would take a flyer on, probably maybe even a 7th and 8th round pick. I would definitely pick this guy up for one reason and one reason only. And that's because nobody on this roster can stay healthy at any given time. And if one of these guys goes down, it's likely that someone else is following them. And in a situation like that, I want a guy like Kadarius Toney because then he becomes instantly a competitor for targets and he can truly shine. If everyone's healthy, which I don't think is going to happen, possibly right off the bat, then I'm not really touching him. But you can best believe if Kenny G goes down, Shepard's kneeling with an ankle issue or something like that, I'm taking Kadarius Toney with a lot of fab because I'm interested in him when I see the value there. He's buried on the depth chart right now. Damon, what are you feeling?
I like his raw talent, but my worry with this guy is Daniel Jones.
Everyone's worried.
Yeah, so he's raw talent. He's 6 foot 193. He runs a 4.4. Like all that is good, but his route running isn't the best. And Daniel Jones, I just don't see him getting him the ball, just throwing more interceptions, trying to target this guy. And that's if somebody gets hurt and he's on the field, which is going to take time. There's no way I'm going to draft somebody who's waiting on an injury, and then even when he gets the spot, the quarterback can't give him the ball.
Yeah, I have to pass this off to Joe because I saw him smirk a little bit. I know we only had time for one guy per player. Joe, you got any thoughts?
No, I was talking about what I wrote in the chat, which is
okay. Well, then hold on.
Wait, but guys, Kadarius Toney, you guys know he has a rap career, right? He's
sure.
Young.
So does Darren.
I like him even less.
Really?
That's even less.
Bro, I like him even less.
Hey, his concern was that he's not as focused because he's focused on his music career.
Yeah.
But dude, I'm just gonna say I think the Giants way overdrafted him. Not that he's not talented. They didn't need him. Is all I'm gonna say.
Why did?
Well, they were apparently very upset that the Eagles traded up to get.
They were going to take
Smith.
But the Giants put it out there that they were going to take Smith, and the Eagles were like F that and jumped in front of them and took him.
It's called playing within the division, baby.
I guess that, and they were mad at that. The Cowboys also in the division is the ones that traded them. So
a lot of canoodling going on there.
Yeah. So I'll just go in with my guy, guys. Amari Rodgers.
Yeah, Amari Rodgers is the last guy on the list, by the way. Wide receiver for the Detroit Lions.
No. That's Brown.
Amon St. Brown. Wait,
I want Amari Rodgers.
You just skipped ahead? Hold on, man.
He said,
okay. We'll touch on Amon St. Brown really quick. Wide receiver for the Lions.
On one guy.
Listen,
we ain't got time.
Williams, Hawkinson, Swift.
Wait, hold on. All right, Joe wants to talk about Rodgers. I'll go 10 seconds on Amon-Ra after he's done.
Yeah.
Fine, go.
Amari Rodgers.
The chaos on this show. Goodness gracious.
Out of, I think, almost everybody, Chase Smith and maybe Elijah Moore aside, actually probably not even Elijah Moore. Amari Rodgers has the most potential, right? If Aaron Rodgers re-signs, which I expect him to, I think that this is going to get worked out. There's no chance that there's really a solid number 2 on that team that's really ahead of him day one, right? I mean, we know that there's Devontae Adams, but who else is there? There's a bunch of guys that have been there for 2-3 years and never really made a career. And now you go out and finally get this man another wide receiver, and I think Aaron Rodgers is going to show you should have done this 2 years ago. And he's going to turn this guy into a success. And he's quick, and he's fast, and he's a bulldozer. And I think that this dude is going to end up having maybe a top 3 fantasy wide receiver rookie first year. Like I said, after Chase and Thing, I like him next. So if Aaron Rodgers is signed, obviously, if Aaron Rodgers is gone, that changes the whole equation. Oh, yeah. But what I'm saying is if Aaron Rodgers is signed and you're going into your rookie draft, I don't think it's overdrafting him to take him over a bunch of those guys. I just don't, because Aaron Rodgers is a superstar and there's way less competition there than any of these other situations except possibly the Lions for Amon-Ra, right? But when you're talking about the Cardinals or the Rams or Seattle, some of these other teams that took wide receivers, they already have established threats. The Packers don't, other than Devontae Adams, but they have the best quarterback of the bunch. So that's easy choice for me. I love him. I hope he slips to me in redraft. And I don't have a late pick in Dynasty, so I probably won't be getting him. But whoever does, I think is going to get jammed.
Yeah, I think we were going off these guys based off their draft position. Where they fell in the NFL draft, Rodgers being a third-round draft pick later in the third round might have been overlooked, but I can't agree with you more on all of those points. If Rodgers is there, it's time that he has
He'll be the number 3 wide receiver too. If this year, if Rodgers is there.
Yeah, 100%. Any other note? Okay, fine. Jacob, you want to talk about Amon St. Brown?
Ross St. Brown. They don't make any other moves regarding wide receiver. He will be the highest targeted rookie wide receiver of all of these guys, in my opinion. And that's because Jared Goff throws the ball. He's not a runner like Jalen Hurts, and the Lions defense is going to suck, and they're going to be playing from behind all the time, and they're going to throw to Amon-Ra St. Brown. You can bank it.
That's a great name.
I would love to book it down with you, but we gotta.
What about our boy Cephas, man? Cephas
St. Brown. Oh wait, I don't know.
Quintez Cephas from last year, 5th round pick.
They also have Perryman and Tyrell Williams. Man, come on, Hawkinson.
And
Swift,
one of Aaron
there's a lot of
Rodgers'
weapons
boys, Geronimo
There's-
Allison.
There's no weapons there.
Yeah, there's no weapons there. But listen, other
Swift
than
and Hawkinson, they're literally 1
yeah,
and 2 in
that's
targets.
it. I agree right there. And
Okay, fine. As
Jamal
wide receivers,
Williams.
yeah, I like Amon Brown more than I like Tyrell Williams. I think Perriman's the real sleeper on the real sleeper on this team. So Jacob, we can work around.
Let's
and
make
book
it. I
down
didn't say he's going to be
later.
the best fantasy wide receiver. He's going to be the most targeted. That's it.
Okay. All right. Well,
That's it.
if we see a book it down, we'll touch on it. Any other guys on this list before we close out today's show? Oh, actually, we got to rank them first. De'Ami Brown, Washington. You know what? Fitzpatrick, very, very known for hyper targeting his wide receiver ones. That's good for McLaurin. That's why we all love him this year. So we'll kind of have to wait and see. Another guy that I kind of saw myself questioning was Nico Collins out of Houston.
If Deshaun Watson plays, Nico Collins is going to blow
Well,
it up.
not only that, but even if he doesn't play, Tyrod Taylor, so you might have a guy like Davis Mills in there. And Brandon Cooks often injured. There's really no one else. Kuki Kuti also injured often. So you might see a guy like Nico Collins.
Cooks is still going to be the number one, but I like
Sure,
Nico
but-
Collins a lot.
And that's kind of what I
Jacob, you know why you like him?
Well, 'cause he's a big wide
6'4",
receiver.
bro.
But-
Yeah.
But man, can you tell me if
no.
if Deshaun Watson was playing starting week 1, obviously Brandon Cooks is going to be the number 1 wide receiver. Who's going to be the second?
Hey, if Deshaun Watson started week 1, Nico Collins might be the number 3 this year.
No, I know that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So him and Amari Rogers, they have
Yeah,
it just
more
depends,
potential than
right?
the rest of these guys.
They go
yeah.
into the top 5 if their quarterbacks are playing.
And I've also heard De'Ami Brown was underdrafted in the draft.
Yeah,
I don't
I've
love
heard
it
that
just
too.
because they have a tight end, or 2 running backs to catch the ball, and we know their 2 starting wide receivers, Curtis Samuel and McLaurin, are good. But it's dynasty, I like him. I would take a flyer on him for sure because I've heard a lot of good things.
Very true. Very true. All right, guys. Before we end today's show, we're going to go ahead and redraft just like we've done the last couple of weeks. Do your best to give me the top 5 guys. I'll lay the parameters out first. I don't think we want to include Pitts in this conversation, so we're going to leave him out of it. Let's just talk purely wide receivers here. With that being said, in redraft, this was a little difficult for Justin and Jacob last week, but I am counting down 5-1 because that's how everyone else does it. So my redraft guys.
Wait, first and foremost, is Aaron Rodgers on the Packers and is Deshaun Watson playing for the Texans?
Why are those questions asked right now? This is not a quarterback show.
No,
I guess I
because
could
Well,
we
it
need
matters
to
for the
know.
wide receivers. I mean,
Okay, fine.
They are.
Hypothetically speaking, yes, everyone stays where they are. Deshaun Watson does not play this year, though. Aaron Rodgers
Does
stays in
not
Green Bay.
play.
Deshaun Watson.
I
Okay.
think it's more likely that Aaron Rodgers plays and then that Deshaun Watson doesn't play. You know,
Okay,
Yes.
so yeah,
So
so
let's
okay,
factor
let's
that in.
go.
That's based
Okay.
off what we know right now. My 5 are Rondale Moore, so not
Oh,
the other guy.
he's going backward. You're going
I'm
backwards.
going
right?
backwards.
Yeah, he
Five-
goes backwards for some reason.
That's how everyone does it.
it's okay.
guys.
It's all right. Go ahead.
Jalen Waddle's number 4, Kadarius Toney at number 3, Elijah Moore at 2, and Chase at number 1. Those are my
Devontae
redraft.
Smith isn't even on your.
Did I take? Oh my god!
It's because you go backwards, you get mixed up.
Yeah. And Gabe froze on us. Jacob, go ahead. Take it away.
I'm just gonna go 1 through 5. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not
let's
sure.
do it. Let's do it.
I don't know why he did.
He did redraft first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got Jamar Chase number 1, and remember what I just said. I got Amon-Ra St. Brown number 2.
Wow.
I have Devontae Smith number 3. I have Rashad Bateman number 4, and I have Amari Rogers number 5.
Okay.
Okay. Demont, go
So
ahead.
that's redraft.
Redraft, Chase, Smith, Amon-Ra, Waddle, Bateman.
Okay. I'm going to go Chase Smith, Amari Rogers, Elijah Moore, and then Waddle.
Okay. I guess we lost Gabe here, so I'll just close us out for today. So I don't think Demont or I had Waddle in that, right? Did
No,
you?
I
have
didn't.
him? Oh,
I
you
had
did? Okay. I didn't have
You
Waddle.
had him at 5 or 4, yeah.
I didn't have Waddle in mine. Okay, so then let's go Dynasty then. So I'll go Dynasty. So mine's a little different for Dynasty, actually. So I have Chase, number 1. I actually have Terrace Marshall Jr., number 2. That's how much I like this guy for
Ooh.
Dynasty. Because look, Sam Darnold's young. He's young. He could be the number 2 there. maybe even surpass Moore as the number one eventually. So I like Terrace Marshall at number 2. I have Devontae Smith at number 3. I have Jalen Waddle at number 4 for Dynasty. And then I have Rashad Bateman at number 5 for Dynasty.
Okay.
That was for redraft, correct?
That was for Dynasty.
Oh, we missed it. I missed the Dynasty ones?
No, you missed the redraft ones.
You missed the
Oh,
redraft
okay.
ones.
Okay, well, did I miss
Here,
any
I can just
salty
give
takes?
mine real quick. So for redraft, mine was Chase, St. Brown, Smith, Bateman, Rogers.
Demont, go ahead, fire off your redraft and your dynasty.
Wait,
Oh,
we did them
we're
back to
re-saying-
back?
We're re-saying the.
No, because
Oh,
Gabe missed
just
it.
because
He
Gabe
was
was
there.
there,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It was Chase Smith, and then it was Amon, and then Waddle Bateman.
Okay. And then dynasty, what do you got?
I got Chase Smith, Waddle, and then Elijah, and then Bateman.
Fair
Not
enough.
too much changes for me. I got Waddle, Moore, Smith, Moore, and Chase. 5-1. 5-1. That's
Stop doing that.
1 to 5. My redraft was what was it? It was Chase, Smith, Rogers, and then I had looking at this list Waddle and Elijah Moore. And I'm gonna go for dynasty. I'm gonna go Chase, then Waddle,
Wow.
then I'm gonna go Devontae Smith, then I'm gonna go Elijah Moore, and I'm gonna finish it off with I think it stays the same, Amari Rogers, because I think that if you can get 3 really good years with Rogers and Rogers, like you're taking that over a guy like
Yeah, because
you need that.
who
That's
cares
the only
after
thing,
that
man, is
point?
Rogers' ego won't let him be
Hey, is
successful.
anybody going to
Only Ron
accidentally
Rodgers
draft
can do it.
Amari Rogers when they go to draft Aaron Rodgers? It just says
Yeah.
A Rogers, but you
Oh,
can
yeah,
see the
yeah.
position though.
For sure, that's going to happen.
All right. Well, hey, that's going to do it for this week's podcast. Again, as always, thank you so much for tuning in, whether it's via our social media platforms, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, or the 24/7 Sportsnet Radio, sportsanorium.com. We appreciate you so much. Be sure to like and subscribe. We will be bringing you some exciting stuff next week. I don't know if I want to give you too much information, but I can't wait, and you'll have to find out. So with that being said, we're out of here this week. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good one. Peace.